Hey Internet family, I am sitting in the parking lot of Patient First because my mother had a foot injury as we're putting my brother's affairs in order on the East Coast. So she's getting seen right now. The hits keep coming, so prayers for Steph would be great. And I wanted to check in with y'all and talk to you about the energetics of grief. Something that helps me when stuff gets really, really heavy. Someone call it a little bit of dissociation, but I feel like it's in balance and used in a way it should be used. Is if I check out the energetics of what's going on, it can help ground me and put me back into my body in a way that is beneficial. So I'll tell you some of the stuff that I've noticed, especially when I'm in the moments of the horror about the death of my brother, about like the violence of it, or the pain of it, or the way he must have felt in order to get to that place. These are just realities of what happened. And also, you might see me saying this a lot to you. I thought it really, really intensely this morning, and I thought to myself, I need to say that on my platform. So I might say this again. But if you're in a situation with someone who you really love, especially someone in your family, whether it be blood family or heart family, and you can be the bigger person, you can be someone who makes the first call, someone who breaks the ice between you, builds the bridges between you. If you have that capacity and you don't necessarily want to do it because you're afraid that it will, you're afraid that maybe you'll lose energy, but you do know the things to do to protect your own energy. If you have the capacity to be the bigger person, build the bridge, make the call, not necessarily apologize for stuff that you didn't do wrong, but say, I want to have a loving relationship with you. If you need a sign to do it, this is your sign, because I wish I had done that with my brother, because we hadn't talked for a little while before he died because I put up boundaries. And if I had it to do again, I would protect myself in such a way that I was still open to his presence in my life. And just the awful truth there is he might not have died if I had done that. Now, I'm sure people will say, oh, it's supposed to happen, da, da, da. Yes, that's true. And this is also just true. And it's one of the few regrets I have in my life. So there are some regrets. And I was thinking today too, I was like, I should talk more about the stuff that I've done wrong. Like, there are some times in my life where I've done stuff that still haunts me to this day because I'm so ashamed. And I think it's true for every person. But I also think it's important to know that the people who are guides and teachers also have this stuff. Like, we're not perfect. We make mistakes and we're learning just like everyone. It's just that the thing that we're called to do happens to be leading other people in stuff that we do understand. Like, there's a lot that I don't understand, but the things that I do understand, I feel compelled to teach and to give to other people who don't necessarily have the privilege of the view that I happen to have because of whatever. Back to the point. Okay, so the energetics of the grief. A couple times I've had really interesting experiences, and some of you guys who have also dealt with deep grief might identify with this, and these are pieces of growth and evolution that I never would have asked for. I never would have asked for this pain. I would never wish this pain on anyone. And yet here it is happening. So let me just deal with it. You know, let me just do justice to this terrain and to this territory by honoring it enough to speak of it and to map it, right? So one of the first things I've remember thinking I should talk about this is it was in the really awful grief when it's just crippling, you know, when you're standing there. Certain funny things, not funny, haha, funny, weird things that have happened is right after I found out, like that same day or the next day, I was just standing at the kitchen washing a dish, at the kitchen sink washing dishes, and I was thinking, like, how can I be washing dishes when my brother is dead? Like, how can I just do these life things? Another thing that is interesting and that I think other people have in grief too is there's a loss of appetite. And I think some of it is you just saying, not thinking about eating. But I did notice, especially right after, when I was just getting used to the idea of Ward not being in body anymore and his body not being alive anymore, it was as if eating felt wrong. It was as if, like, nourishing my body and letting more life through my body felt like the wrong thing to do on some deep primordial level, or like not necessarily primordial but primal level. because my brother had no more life in his body. You know, it's all like real subconscious stuff. And I thought, like, back in the day, yeah, people used to, I know in the biblical accounts of stuff, people are talked about tearing their hair, tearing their clothes, maybe fasting. I wouldn't be surprised if fasting was a thing in grief, because it makes sense. You know, there were moments where I did want to like self-destruct a little bit. Not that I ever actually did, but in another video, I think I told you guys one day I was wanting to like beat on my heart, and I like hard, like enough that it startled myself. I startled myself with it, and I had a couple people come and tell me that that's a Kriya Yoga move to dislodge grief and clear the heart space. It's like, okay, well, that makes sense. Whew, at least I'm not just self-destructing for no reason. At least it makes sense. So, more energetics. I felt my heart, in my heart space, I felt black roots growing, and it didn't, I mean, it hurt, it was painful. It didn't feel like a bad thing. It felt, I mean, a painful AF thing that, again, I would never ever ask for. But I was like, okay, over time, what right now feels just to be like roots growing into my heart, like black roots growing through parts of my heart, they will eventually evolve and season into entire like hallways, rooms, doors into different territory. Like I was expanding, but I was expanding internally, like growing internally rather than growing on the outside, of just growing on the internal edges, like developing my microcosmic self. And like I said, very, very painful. I know eventually I will be, although I'll never be glad that this happened, I'll understand the growth and evolution that was caused by it and be like, okay, I'm grateful to have this wisdom now. Right now it just still blows. Right now it's just like still awful, and something to survive through, especially when like your body is fine, but your emotions are so completely jacked up that it's hard to understand how the world kind of keeps going at certain moments. And I think that's normal for grief, though. That's what I hear. So the heart expansion inward is one of the energetics. The other one that I find really, really fascinating is right under my eyes, like about an inch or two in to my skull. So it's not the surface of my skin, but it's like under my eyeballs, like right down. I feel sometimes when I'm in the more horrible aspects, like horror is the vibe, I feel these like black holes opening up beneath my eyes and beneath my eye sockets. And it's like there are these caverns of, and it also happens when I'm hearing someone's story when there's grief on it. It's a witnessing of grief. It feels like my eyes are opening, elongated, like there's an opening underneath, and then it can receive more light, and then it can see a different kind of light or something, and witness a different kind of something. But I also think archetypally with a lot of scary, dark entities, which every single time, I don't know if y'all have ever had the experience of reading about the history of these beings that we see as dark or scary, but often they're just in deep, deep pain. And every time I've ever heard the story of one, I'm always like, yeah, makes sense. Like, makes sense why you are the way that you are. Like anyone who went through what you went through might be like that. And so I think about how often a lot of them have like darkness here on their face, like these openings under their eyes, or these like eyes that come down. Like I thought about the Scream mask. And then, by the way, I mentioned that to a friend on the phone, and they said that night, the night before, they had a nightmare about people with that face. I'm like, okay, there's something going on here. You know, there's some type of truth here, deep archetypal truth here. Anyway, and so again, when I feel it happen, and it's an energetic thing, it's not a physical thing. Yes, I've had dark circles from the grief and non-sleep, but it's not the same. I've just let it happen, because again, it feels like a seasoning. It feels like a maturation in a way. I mean, there will be a before this and after this. There'll be the before that early June 2022 when my brother was alive, and after June 2022 when he was no longer alive. And that is something I can never change, right? That will be the way it is. So just understanding it. So yeah, those are the main ones: the heart roots, the eye caverns, and it's fascinating. And it is what it is. I choose to see. I choose to not blind myself. I choose to see what happens, so then I just have to deal with it. And so I've just been infusing it all with love, infusing it all with Reiki, asking myself to be surrounded by divine energies, learning the best I can, resting the best I can, while also acting as much as I can, and trying to be patient with myself and everyone else, which of course my fuse is super short because I'm highly stressed. But this is when introspection is nice, because it lets me think about it rather than being in it all the time. So anyway, sending y'all love, reminding you to appreciate the peace in your life. If you got it, love it.